Unforgettable Szechuan and Mandarin dishes like fish fillet and ginger sauce and beef and broccoli. Dine in or take out at 4515 France Avenue South. Find more details at GreatWallyDina.com. Again, that's GreatWallyDina.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Welcome to the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker, executive producer, Jim Pounds, in studio with me.
Hey, all.
And in the control room, Patrick. Hey, Patrick, how are you today?
How's everybody doing this afternoon?
It feels so nice outside, the weather. Have you guys been outside? It's just so springy.
That's called sunlight.
It has been a little bit. I know you were talking yesterday about sort of the frustration that it's kind of getting there, but then it's kind of a step forward, 2 steps back. You get a day where it gets maybe up to 60, then the next day it's 40 or 45 again for the next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Spring in Minnesota, spring in the Midwest. But today is nice, and so clearly I'm enjoying it.
You have a smile on your face.
I do have a smile on my face for multiple reasons. Not necessarily a lot of the news today, but our call-in number 952-946-6205. What LGBTQ news stories are you following today? What is driving you up a wall or is making you happy? 952-946-6205. Making time for you on the show. While we're waiting for that, to hear from you, what we're covering. A U.S. district judge has blocked Trump's executive order barring trans people from changing the gender markers on their passports. Today, the Supreme Court is hearing a case that could lead to a de facto ban on LGBTQ books in classrooms across the country. I do want to follow up a little bit from my analysis yesterday, saying that if DEI isn't about banning free speech, then how could there be hate speech laws? Going to get into that later in the show. But up first, I want to continue our coverage of the Minnesota Council on LGBTQIA Two-Spirit People. They are conducting the first ever statewide community assessment survey. So as a, reminder, the council was created in 2023. The governor appoints 12 public voting members, and then there are up to 4 appointed legislators. And the public voting members are folks who have, obviously, an expertise of and a proven track record of working with the Minnesotan LGBTQ community. The idea is that the council will advise the governor and the legislature on LGBTQ issues, recommended administrative or legislative changes to the laws, and also to outline what the impacts might be of those proposed changes, administrative changes and laws. The council also does research, and that's what I want to continue our coverage of today. Last week, we had the council's executive director, Emma Watts, on to introduce the survey. We have now learned that since launching in March of this year, already 3,000 community members have completed it, which is a great number. It's a great start. The survey is geared towards 2 groups. So LGBTQ folks who are 18 and older, and then parents of LGBTQ youth. And for both groups, it's not about sharing personal information. So I took the survey. Have you taken the survey? You can call in and let us know, 952-946-6205. And it's about finding the needs of the community. So like experiences, challenges, priorities. The assessment survey is long, which I appreciated. And I would actually say it's not long, it's thorough.
Yeah.
And they're taking this very seriously, and it shows. So I made my chai tea. I spiked it with some coffee. It was in the morning, so I was still fresh and awake and had my wits about me. And I took my time because I, too, wanted to be thoughtful in my responses. They have clearly taken the time. So I said, I'm going to also take the time to be, thoughtful in my replies to the survey. And right away, I wanted to know about privacy. And they never ask for things like my name or address. They didn't ask for those in the survey. There is actually a completely different organization altogether who is processing the data for the council. So the council actually doesn't even see the individual responses. It's I didn't even know about this council, the Minnesota Management Analysis and Development, which is a state agency that has been given specific legal protections, which allows them to use extra layers of privacy and how they handle data that other agencies don't have. So they're going to analyze the data and then provide, summary reports to the council. And also for folks to know, the assessment survey is accessible. Big thing for us here on the show. So they have a phone number and an email you can use to get an accessible version of the survey. For instance, if you use a screen reader. And they ask about 11 topics. Again, being thorough, there's 11 topics that they deal with in the survey. Demographics, health and wellness, safety, social support and community engagement, housing, employment, education, legal services, facility access for transgender people, general access, and then looking to the future. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the questions here. The topics speak for themselves. But the questions I found generally all around were like feelings of those specific areas, right? Like, how did I feel physically in those areas, emotionally in those different topic areas? How connected to the community do we feel? Like, how do we assess our mental health and physical health? A big one for me, those last two recommendations that can be made to the governor, to the legislature on addressing the health inequities that the LGBTQ community faces in Minnesota. They are real. They are happening. As a former LGBTQ health equity educator, so I want to let folks know about that. There are questions about, like I was answering about my experiences trying to get help and access resources. And the demographic information questions were like pretty basic. It was like, do you live in an urban, suburban, rural area? Like, how long have you lived here? But even that was like in brackets, like, have you lived here like 5+ years, 1 to 3 years, just moved here? The survey is open until May 31st. Yeah, Jim.
Well, I think I was going to say two things. One, in a time when we're feeling erased and ignored and erased, it was very empowering to give some of this information anonymously, thinking, well, here's some data so to oppose all the nonsense. And then I also want to speak for the procrastinator community, because I finished part of my survey, but you are able to go back and complete it, and that's on my task. So John, I'm sure will help me do that. But you were about to say there's a deadline, and that's important for people to know, to light a little.
Can you tell who is the A+ paranoid student?
Oh, right. Yes. I was a B student, and I admit it.
Right. So the survey is open until May 31st. Another new item that we learned that we want to report here is that they are looking for more parents of LGBTQ kiddos to take the survey. And again, as I inquired, it's not about giving the state information about your kids, or even about us giving our information to the state as adults, right? That's not what this is about. What I really appreciate about what they're doing, to your point, we are being erased from public life, or they're trying to do that. Here in Minnesota, though, we have all sorts of legal protections, and now we have this new agency, council, that is attempting to quantify what are the lived experiences of the community. What is the community going through, right? And I think that I know there is a dearth of data when it comes to the LGBTQ community, particularly for folks under 18. So editorially speaking, I do think it's important, and we do recommend that parents and all of us queer folks take the survey, since we're not actually giving away personal information about our kids. Well, I mean, your kids. I don't have kids. But for the collective we are giving info to the council that helps them assess how life is for queer kiddos. Now, there is an opportunity if you don't want to take it online. So you can go to, if you're in the cities, you can go to Queermunity on Hennepin. I cannot believe I've forgotten it's on Hennepin Avenue, near Majors and Quinn. And there are also an accessible place. There are multiple bus routes that take you there. If you are driving, there is a lot right about a half block away from Queermunity as well. So if you want to get there, but they have paper versions of the survey, and you can actually, this Sunday, you can go there, and they're going to have like a quasi event with like some hot chocolate, and they're going to have refreshments. I can say that. That's a fact. There'll be refreshments for you. You can take the paper survey. You can turn it in. Again, still anonymous. Like, they're not asking you for your name or anything. and they're not like taking photographs or anything like that. You'll still have the level of anonymity and confidentiality. And when you're there, bonus points, you can get the grilled cheese sandwich at the cafe, which is delicious. Shout out to Chef June Day about that grilled cheese sandwich, because it is queer comfort food.
I was just gonna say, I'm being snide here. You're talking about Majors and Quinn that should be advertising on AM 950. Is that who you're talking about? Is that Majors and Quinn?
I cannot believe
I'm a salesperson at
Wow.
heart. There you go. It's an endorsement.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
good advice.
Well, talking. Yes. So this Sunday, you can go to Queermunity and do a paper version of the survey and have some delightful refreshments. Again, I cannot recommend the grilled cheese sandwich enough. And I just, I worked for 2-3 years doing LGBTQ health equity in the state of Minnesota. And we were the only organization at the time that was collecting community health information. So every summer, we would go to all the Pride festivals. We also had a digital version of it where we would try to get data that the community, very similar way that they're doing here, but we were just focused on, healthcare experiences. And it was so wild to me how little data, official data, there actually was, but also so encouraging because we were at Pride and this was a 4-page paper survey. And we'd have tables in our booth and people would come down there and we'd tell them what we were doing. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, absolutely. This is at Pride. They would sit down in a tent and they would fill out a 4-page survey. I mean, that is the community here in Minnesota. And that was just so amazing to watch folks do that. And so I know that the will is there for our community to, provide data to organizations and to the state about how to make the community healthier and more vibrant. And, it is a value, I think, of the LGBTQ community here in Minnesota to band together and to do that and to create that knowledge and that visibility of us. So we are including a link in our show notes or on our website. You can head to our program page on our website. You can see today's episode. The link will be in the description. It is mnqt.info/survey. So mnqt.info/survey. You can also go to our Blue Sky account. We are at thegayleyshow.org on Blue Sky. We'll be posting information about that. There are cool graphics that we're going to do and post about it that way, so you can connect to the survey there. Short break here. More to come. You're listening to The Gayley Show.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
I'm Rachel Schroman, owner of Schroman Law, and I believe you deserve information. Our firm offers free quarterly estate planning seminars at our office in St. Paul. At these seminars, you can learn the basics of estate planning from an attorney to help you determine which estate planning documents will meet your needs and goals in an efficient and cost-effective manner. You can learn more and register at our website, schromanlaw.com/events. That's SCHROMEN law.com/events.
Hi, I'm Rachel Shamblat. My dad is Dr. Scott Shamblat from Shamblat Family Dentistry. A lot of people are afraid of the dentist, but you don't have to be. My dad makes going to the dentist comfortable and even fun. He won't be mad if you haven't seen a dentist in a long time. He just wants to take care of you and your teeth. If you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Thanks for listening to my show, The Matt McNeil Show, 3 to 5 p.m. weekdays right here on AM 950. Every day we wander the Trump moldy meat market deli case of horror. We can at least do it together. Connect with me on my main social media pages. Look for me under The Matt McNeil Show on Blue Sky and Mastodon. On Facebook, it's Progressive Citizen X Matt McNeil Show. And on Threads, it's Matthew McNeil 1. We'll get through the next 4 years with lots of counseling, animal videos, and constant supply of sweets. It's The Matt McNeil Show, 3 to 5 p.m. weekday afternoons on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Brush up on your creativity at Twin Cities Pride's Paint by Numbers Night Out. Join the fun on Saturday, April 26th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Pride Cultural Arts Center. Whether you're a seasoned artist or can barely draw a stick figure, this is your chance to relax, paint, and connect with your community. For just $35, you'll get a Paint by Numbers kit, light refreshments, and a fun, relaxed space to let your inner artist shine. Come solo or bring a friend. Everyone's welcome. More info at tcpride.org. That's tcpride.org.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease. It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. It is 21 minutes past the hour. Our call-in number 952-946-6205. What LGBTQ news are you following today? What is really driving up a wall or is making you feel hopeful? If there is news that is doing that for you, 952-946-6205. So, turning to national news, a U.S. district judge has blocked Trump's executive order barring trans people from changing the gender markers on their passports. So here again, good news for us. The Trump continues to lose in the courts. Now, it was U.S. District Judge Julia Kobik, who was a Biden appointee who sided with the American Civil Liberties Union in this case. And I want to point out, because folks will be like, oh, it was a Biden appointee ruling against Trump. No, it's Trump appointees, it's Bush appointees, it's Obama appointees. Like, essentially, even though judges are nonpartisan, it is bipartisan in the sense that Republican, Democratic, and one MAGA president's appointees are all rejecting his executive orders. So in this case, there is a preliminary injunction, which basically means that all action on the case has to stop while the lawsuit continues on and plays out. So it is still technically going on, but essentially what was happening was that for trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming folks who already had their identities updated on their driver's licenses, social security cards, state IDs, etc., applying for passports that either had either their correct gender on there, either it was M or F or X. And Trump said, well, no more. We can't have that. And the judge said, well, stop it. And what Judge Kobik actually said was the law requires the government to demonstrate that its actions are substantially related to an important governmental interest, and the government has failed to meet the standard. Correct. The administration has failed again. So the ACLU was arguing before the court that this executive order and the passport policy would mean that transgender, non-binary, and intersex Americans would not get an accurate passport. Now, the question that I am asking is, if you have an authorized and accurate photo of yourself, why do we need gender on our passports? Like, why are we even gathering this data? Which is more important for verifying a person's identity? The letters M, F, or X, or an accurate photograph?
Right.
And here's the thing, right? So imagine a person is walking up to a TSA security booth, and they look like a dude, and they have a beard, and their name is a masculine name like Chuck or Dave. And because of the Trump administration, instead of an M on their passport, there's an F. Like, why? Why do we even need this anymore? And how unnecessarily confusing is that? So, hopefully, I mean, yes, I understand that, we need to stop the executive order and there should be gender markers that align with a person's gender identity. M, F, or X. But I still don't understand why we are collecting gender identity data. And when I went to the State Department's website to figure out, like, why are they collecting this? And they claim that this is used to verify a person's identity. But again, if you have a photo, the photo is more accurate than any type of gender marker, M, F, or X.
Are they making the case that somebody could be in disguise? Although, like you say, if you look at the photo and you look at the person and you go, that's them, well, then that sort of takes that away. Yeah, it's an odd thing that we know Trump is trying to simply say non-binary and trans people don't exist, which is patently false. So they're trying to prop up a falsehood because they think it gets them donations from a few loony birds. And I really don't think there's no strategic thinking here in this administration. It's all, I have a personal hatred about something and now I'm going to make it a law.
And it reminds me of the New York Times Ipsos poll from earlier this year, where they found that Americans only cited LGBTQ issues. 4% of them said those are the most important issues to be dealt with right now. 4% means that not even queer people are saying that it was the most important issues. Right. And the Times managed to spin that as an anti-liberal message, which is, why are the Democrats so obsessed with gays? When only 4% of the population says this is a top issue for them. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Here is the Trump administration wasting our time,
money, yeah,
and court time as well. It's not just the time of us queer folks dealing with this, but also the court's time and creating a policy. But this is something for me on a more macro level. If we are talking about the security at TSA, having a reliable, accurate photo seems to me the crucial part of identification than having someone's gender marker on there. Now, maybe I'm missing something here. Looking at the State Department's website, that's all I can really see. But if there is a lawyer listening to this right now, or an immigration attorney that can say, well, actually, John, this is the situation of why we need M, F, or X on the passport to protect the security of our airports, please, 952-946-6205. I want to hear that, because I don't see it right now.
We don't get it.
I don't see it right now. Anyway, I have got to fit in a break here. This show and progressive radio is not possible without our advertisers and sponsors. Shop with them, do business with them, tell them you heard about them right here on The Gailey Show on AM 950 Radio. You can also learn more about them on AM 950 Radio. Why am I going to break?
I don't know.
Just got a flash. Like, why are you going to break? I don't know. I have been so off on time today. It has been really. I got here like an hour early. I was that ready to do the show today. Like, I got here an hour early to get ready, and now here I am, like, ready to throw to a break.
Well,
wow. All you folks dealing with me
But at least you're
today.
running ahead, not running behind, I guess.
I guess, right?
That's the one thing I can.
So anyway, coming back to the case. So the next steps in the case, now that I've got time to talk about it, the next step. So the case is ongoing, and currently the plaintiffs, it works out for them. So they were the ones that were trying to get their passports, and the Trump administration said no, and the process was rejected. And so they filed a lawsuit. What is now happening in the case is that the ACLU is trying to get that injunction to apply to all queer and trans folks who are trying to deal with the State Department and getting their passports. So that is the immediate next step that the ACLU is doing, is they're filing a motion to get it extended to everybody within the country. But right now it is just I think it was only even 7 of 8 of the plaintiffs received that. So I haven't in the reporting or found anything of why it wasn't all of them. Curious to find that out. We'll do some more research into what's going on there. But here's a win. We get to accept it right now. We'll see if they try to take it up to the Supreme Court, where all hope goes to die these days. And I say that because there was a case in front of the Supreme Court today. We're going to talk about it in the next block, where despite all of the courts below them saying, no, this is no good, they're going to side with anti-LGBTQ plaintiffs once again.
Very important case.
Now I will say, Support our sponsors. They make AM 950 radio and progressive radio possible. Shop with them, do your business with them, tell you heard about them on The Gailey Show.
This is Santita Jackson, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I couldn't be more excited about starting our days together, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our live call-in talk show airing every Saturday from noon to 1, where we talk about your health and your life and provide insights you need to know to live and age well. Each week, we talk with guests who provide answers to important questions regarding healthcare, elder care, end-of-life care, and self-care for caregivers, and help you and your loved ones plan for the future and enjoy your highest quality of life today. Please join us every Saturday from noon to 1 on AM 950 for Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Our veterans need you.
There are more than 8 million enrollees in healthcare at the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Veterans from previous generations.
And veterans from today's wars.
Challenging medical conditions.
And more women returning than ever before.
Or redefining how care is provided.
Serve those who served our nation.
Bring your medical and healthcare skills to VA. America's heroes need you. Visit vacareers.va.gov.
This is AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, it's Freddie Bell, host of New Beginnings, designed for those of us more seasoned, I'll say, with informative talk on everything from health, finance, local and regional news, volunteerism, spirituality, and even a bit of humor tossed in. So if you're proud to be a more seasoned listener, tune in to New Beginnings Sunday afternoons at 1 right here on the progressive voice of Minnesota, AM 950.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 69. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 47. And Wednesday, sunny with a high near 68. The Great Wall Restaurant specializes in unforgettable Szechuan and Mandarin dishes like fish fillet and ginger sauce and beef and broccoli. Dine in or take out at 4515 France Avenue South. Find more details at GreatWallyDina.com. Again, that's GreatWallyDina.com.
Coming to you live from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and streaming live right now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TheGailey Welcome back to The Gailey Show. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I'm your host, John Parker, executive producer, Jim Pounds in studio with me.
Trying to keep things on track.
Keep things on track.
All I can do.
Job of an executive producer. So today, the Supreme Court heard a case that could lead to a de facto ban on LGBTQ books in classrooms across the country. So it deals with, of course, religious objections to LGBTQ storybooks in public schools. Now, our editorial position is that we have gone too far with religious exemptions, and we have effectively created two sets of laws in this country. There is the law, and then there are the religious communities who don't have to follow the law. And this completely undermines the rule of law. A religious community could cite scripture to get out of paying taxes, to justify honor killings, to skirt the remaining weak gun laws that we have, to pollute, you name it. So this two-tiered legal system needs to stop. In this particular case, a coalition of religious parents, so they are Muslim and Ukrainian Orthodox and Catholic, they're arguing that they should be able to pull their kids out of school whenever anything about LGBTQ people is taught. Now, on the face of that, that sounds like, oh, okay, well, why not? Why shouldn't a parent be able to pull their child out of, curriculum? The question is, so number one, two-tiered legal system. Number two, where do you draw the line on that? So parents could pull their students out for learning about evolution, learning that slavery was bad.
I'm sure they do.
I mean, in Florida, they are trying to make it curriculum. They are trying to make curriculum that teachers would have to teach that there were benefits to slavery.
Right.
Yeah, that is happening.
Yeah. It's pathetic.
So the solution here is not to pull your kids on what you do or don't like about the curriculum on a go day by day basis. The solution is to send your kid to a religious school. That is the solution. It's an all or nothing on curriculum. You either go in on the curriculum or you say, you know what, I don't like that my child is learning about something that is going to go against their religious tradition. Then the solution is you take your kid out of a public school and you put them in a school that is going to affirm your faith tradition.
Without vouchers.
End of argument. But here, the AP News is now reporting that the Supreme Court, based off of the oral arguments today, is probably going to overturn the rulings of multiple lower courts who were going on the side of the schools, and they're going to side with the families. Now, here's the deal. If you have LGBTQ books in your classroom, or you want to include any content that includes an LGBTQ book, or you've got social studies, content, history content, whatever that includes LGBTQ people, now you're going to have to, because of this law and because of what we see in states like Florida and Texas, you're going to have to draft a letter. You're going to have to give the kids that letter. They're going to have to take it home to their parents. You're going to have to give an appropriate amount of time for the parents to review the letter because they can't be bothered to review everything right away. Then they're going to send the letter back in. You're going to have to make sure that you've got all the letters from all of the students. Then you're going to have to decide where are the students who are being pulled out of my lesson going to go. You're going to have to arrange for what that lesson that they're going to learn, the alternative stuff. They just can't go into the gym and sit there staring at each other. So now you're going to have to figure that out. Do you think that is going to happen?
This is what you call a civilization in decline.
That is not going to happen. So this is why we say it's going to end up being a de facto ban, right, is that teachers will choose to just not teach the curriculum because you're creating such an onerous process that it is easier to just not have it there. And you may have administrators on top of that, like we saw in Rochester Public Schools, where a single parent complains and overrides a media committee, overrides parents, overrides local organizations, overrides the publisher, overrides all of the multiple positive reviews that a book has received and said, no, I'm going to get rid of it. Only my opinion counts. There you go. So you may also have administrators who are telling teachers, don't even risk it. Right now.
Yep.
It's not worth it.
It's tragic.
So this again is now also prioritizing the religious views of some parents. What about the parents who want that curriculum taught in the schools?
The good ones, you mean the good ones?
What about the students who want to learn that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Do they not also have free speech rights and protections? We have to dumb down our schools and say, well, this is all the curriculum we can't teach because these people, because of their religious tradition, say that we can't teach it.
But
the solution, send your kid to a religious school.
But that's a theocracy. I mean, the reason the United States is distinguished in the world is because it used to have a strong public school system, and all the religious schools and private schools and for-profit schools and homeschooling nonsense was discouraged. It should be outlawed, but discouraged, so that everybody had a similar education and the society advanced. And these people literally want us to go backwards.
Yes, but again, I don't. If you want to choose what your child is learning, send them to the school that is going to teach that. Do not think that you have the right to send your child to a school and then dictate what that school teaches.
Yeah. I had an irrational parent say to me, nobody's going to tell me what to teach my children. And as I told you, you're not teaching them.
Yeah.
That's why we have public schools too.
That's why we have public
teachers.
schools.
Yeah.
That's why we have public schools.
And you sit down and do your needlework or whatever it is you need to do to make yourself happy. But out.
Yeah. And the PEN America has talked about this in a motion that or in a court filing that they submitted on this case, talking about how this would create a de facto ban. They also cited their research. Guess how many books were banned in the US in schools last school year?
I'm going to guess 1,700.
Over 10,000.
That's pathetic. Shame on us.
Moms for Liberty.
Shame on
all
them.
These MAGA organizations.
Shame on them.
And now these faith groups. Again, we have freedom of religion in this country. You should be, it is in the Constitution. I say it all the time. You should be given the right to practice your faith tradition as you see fit. But that practice does not get to allow you to dictate what everybody else gets to learn and everybody else wants to learn. Why did you ban 10,000 books from schools last year? There are parents who want their kids to have those books in those schools. There are kids who want to read those books. Why are they being denied the right to do that?
It's anti-American, I would say.
What are these books that are in the case, you ask right now? So there is Prince and Knight, which is two men fall in love after they rescue a kingdom. I've read the book. I've seen it. It is so innocuous that you're like, what is the big deal here? Yeah. There is Uncle Bobby's Wedding, in which a niece worries that her uncle will not have as much time for her after he gets married, and he's getting married to a man. I've looked through it. It's like that. What is the story is about a child wanting to have a continued relationship with a family member. That's what the story is about. It's not pushing gay marriage on anybody.
Right.
It's saying this is a child navigating a real emotional issue, which is what we want picture children's books to do, right? Then entertaining, but also reflect the experiences, help set up a learning moment for the child.
Yep.
That author is Sarah Brennan, and we may have a episode actually on This Queer Book Saved My Life, our GLAAD Media Award nominated podcast, where a guest has actually reached out to us saying that was a book that had a life-saving impact for them, and actually became a full circle moment for them, actually, where they got to then give their book to a niece who was having the exact same reactions. So it's sort of this like full circle moment for them. But stay tuned. We may have Sarah on the podcast. We will find out about that. Another one is a book called Love, Violet, which is dealing with a girl's anxiety about giving a Valentine to another girl. There's Born Ready, which is the story of a transgender boy's decision to share his gender identity with his family and the world. And then there's Intersection Allies, which describes 9 characters of varying backgrounds, including one who is gender fluid. Now, when you actually look at the books, a reasonable person would say there is nothing sexualized about any of these books. Right. The families are arguing that they are sexualizing children.
Yeah, religious people are very preoccupied with sex.
Well, I mean, Moms for Liberty and these other MAGA organizations, they are claiming that there is sexual content, but when you actually get qualified people and just regular people, I've talked with PEN America, and they've said, yeah, we have taken books into these trainings that we do with school library boards, with public school boards, and they've said, we're helping to train you to deal with the situation of when a parent challenges a book. Here's the process of what you should do to make this be up and up. This is what the policy should be. And they will show the books, and they're like, all the time, people are like, what's the problem with this book? And they're like, you tell us, find it.
Right.
You know, they're going to tell you about it. Where do you see a problem? And they're like, we don't see a problem with it. And then they share what the problem is. And they're like,
yeah,
that was the problem.
Right. But in a disturbed mind, there is a problem, unfortunately.
I mean, this stuff, when I've talked and interviewed folks from Penn America, what they have to deal with is just, when I've talked to the queer staff there, they even talk about how like they have to take breaks from dealing with all of the research because it just becomes so overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
The hate speech that they have to read through as they're doing the research for their publications that they do.
Yep.
I mean, just absolutely. Again, the solution, you don't get to dictate what other children learn.
No, you don't.
Because of your faith tradition. Because what if someone has a faith tradition, and they do exist, where they want their kids to learn about this? They want, is that the counter lawsuit here then? I mean, what happens when the Supreme Court sides with these families when a coalition of religious groups and parents file a lawsuit saying, we want our kids to have access to these things. We want this material in there based off of our faith tradition. Why is it that the groups that want these things, the faith groups that want queer books in schools, want queer curriculum, their faith is somehow lesser than the ones who are anti-LGBTQ?
Don't make a show of your religion.
That's the frustrating part of all of this, is that this keeps happening over and over again.
Right.
And
because don't you think the belief is on some psychological level that if we don't acknowledge it, it doesn't, if we pretend it doesn't exist, or we teach our kids it doesn't exist, it won't exist. And then of course, we've known for thousands of years, of course that it's going to exist. And nothing you say or nothing anyone else says or writes or doesn't write is going to stop that.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think the question that the court is not answering here, and the question that we should be asking is, why is it that the faith traditions that want to have these books and want this curriculum taught don't get the same rights?
Well,
and again, it's a public school. So faith tradition, separation of church and state, faith tradition should not be dictating what is and isn't taught in public schools. Qualified teachers with graduate degrees and college degrees should be deciding based off of science what should and shouldn't be taught at the appropriate age levels to be doing that. They get to decide that.
Right.
They get to decide that. Anyway, we are going to take a break right now. When we come back, I'm going to get into hate speech laws and free speech laws after the break to kind of clarify and continue the conversation that we started yesterday. So stay tuned. One last break. Lots to get to here on The Gailey Show. Be sure to follow us on Blue Sky. We're at thegaileyshow.org for more progressive news and analysis. Stay tuned.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Brush up on your creativity at Twin Cities Pride's Paint by Numbers Night Out. Join the fun on Saturday, April 26th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Pride Cultural Arts Center. Whether you're a seasoned artist or can barely draw a stick figure, this is your chance to relax, paint, and connect with your community. For just $35, you'll get a Paint by Numbers kit, light refreshments, and a fun, relaxed space to let your inner artist shine. Come solo or bring a friend. Everyone's welcome. More info at tcpride.org. That's tcpride.org.
Everyone wants to maximize their dollar. If you're looking for a new vehicle, the only place to go is Rudy Luther Toyota. Consumer Reports Best of 2025 edition has the most reliable vehicles as Toyotas. The Toyota Corolla, RAV4, and RAV4 Prime top the list of the most reliable cars. And Toyotas are fuel efficient, meaning less money at the pumps. Consumer Reports Best of gas mileage ranking has the Prius Camry, Corolla Cross Hybrid, RAV4 Hybrid, and the Highlander Hybrid top of their classes. Reliability and fuel efficiency, you'll find them both at Rudy Luther Toyota. 5 miles west of Minneapolis on 394.
Hey, it's Patrick. Spring showers may bring May flowers, but they also bring big savings with Zero Res. And right now, you can beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking by calling our heroes at Zero Res. Zero Res removes winter's buildup and lingering odors, giving your home a fresh, spring-ready feel, preparing your home for the brighter days ahead. Just check out the almost 21,000 raving customer service reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating and see what all the hype is about. This month, get 3 rooms Zero Resified from Minnesota's #1 carpet cleaner starting at just $119 and take $75 off an air duct cleaning as well. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now at 9520-RES or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Spell it backward or forward, it's the same. Zero Res.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. It is 9 minutes before the top of the hour. I wanted to follow up from some analysis that I gave yesterday, yesterday I said that DEI in this country, diversity, equity, inclusion, isn't about banning free speech. And then there was a question that I got last night about, well, why are there hate speech laws then? And so to recap, the Trump administration is telling the UK government that if they want a trade deal, they need to repeal their hate speech laws. And the hate speech laws prevent denigrating, discriminating against the queer community, against communities of color, people living with disabilities, etc., etc. And yesterday I was talking about how, and we are not trying as a former chief diversity officer, I can say that we are not trying to pass laws curbing free speech. That's here in the United States. They have a different free speech legal system in the United Kingdom and generally so in Europe. So that's why you can see that there are anti-hate speech laws in Europe. We don't have that over here. Those actually probably wouldn't hold up in court because of how our First Amendment in the US Constitution is written. So that's why you can see the differences there. And I think that there in the US, then I do think there would be a desire to have a version of an anti-hate speech law, but we probably wouldn't get that because all of the anti-discrimination laws are being undone because of free speech. So, which apparently only applies to MAGA. So in the US, what we're increasingly finding is that any type of discrimination, particularly against the queer community, is being categorized as a speech issue. And then they're running that up the flagpole as quickly as possible to the Supreme Court, who's basically said, yeah, sure, everything is free speech. If you're making cakes, that is free speech. And so your business isn't actually about baking wedding cakes. Your business is actually about the expression of free speech.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and discriminate against your LGBTQ employees. That is based off of a real case, by the way. Came out of Colorado.
We Americans lack our hate speech, apparently.
Well, so that's why, in the US, nobody in the diversity, equity, and inclusion field is saying that we should be banning speech because that wouldn't fly here based off of, precedent and the way that our system is set up.
Obviously.
The issue, though, around, you're telling us what we can and can't say is based off of, one, expanding notions of sexuality and gender identity. Everybody likes to harp on, and I know I keep harping about the acronym. Oh, there's too many letters. Oh, now people are this and they're that, and what is going on? And why can't we just go back to when it was, LGBT? I don't mind this. I keep harping on it because I would rather have an acronym that is way too long but reflects our community. And also I can just say, get over it.
Yeah.
When I was as a chief diversity officer and when I was an LGBTQ health equity educator, I got this all the time. Which one should I use? LGBTQ, LGBTQIA. I don't want to be seen as being exclusive. And I'm like, look, pick one and just run with it.
Yeah, if you
just
can get the word gay out of your mouth, that's a good job.
Just run with it. There is no perfect one. There is no perfect. There is no correct version of that.
Of all the things to be concerned about, that's not it.
And so when there are the linguistic debates that can get strident, I will admit that they can get strident, and I think where that comes from is in trauma studies, and I'm actually going to talk about this on Thursday in our thinking, or no, I talked about it last week in our Thinking Clearly episode with Samuel Huneke. We were talking about how the linguistics of things can get way too strident. And my argument is that when you see in trauma studies that there is sort of this idea of vigilance, so that's just your general, like, protecting yourself, right? But there can be in trauma hypervigilant, where you are constantly on guard for anything that can be a threat to you based off of your experiences of living through very real physical, spiritual, or emotional trauma. And so I think that on the left, we can use language a little hyper vigilantly, if that's a word, in the sense that we are looking to linguistic clues if someone is on our side or if they're not on our side. If they're going to betray us or if they're not going to betray us, right? Because like we see with Governor Newsom in California, Mr. Ally made his whole political career on being an ally. And now suddenly he's sending his legislative aides and his chief of staff to the Hill and saying, don't send us any more trans legislation. The governor's not going to sign it. And so we think that we can look for linguistic clues that are going to show us this. And that's why I think we get very adamant about the acronym. We get very adamant about pronouns. We get very adamant about, are we using people of color? Are we not, if we're not using people of color, like, are we saying specific communities? Are we saying, Asian American? Are we saying, Black? Are we saying, Latin American, Latino? Like we want to create this linguistic inclusive environment, and we become very strident about that. And that leads to the perception that we're telling people what they can and they cannot say, when in reality, we are trying to use language to create inclusive spaces.
But would you agree? I mean, I get the idea that because I don't always know which is the best way to proceed, and I think that's okay to not know the best way to proceed, but that you're striving to want to try to figure that out of respect for somebody, no matter who they are. But I think there is too much emphasis on the mechanics and not enough on the sort of underlying humanity of it.
Well, that's the analysis that I want to leave us with here today, is that the proclamation that we are trying to limit speech, we're telling people what they can and cannot say, is derived from the desire to create inclusive environments. And the people who want to call me an FAG do not like that I'm doing that, right? And so, but we cannot let it air on this strident, sort of militant, this is the language we can and can't use, because language is fluid. Anyway, the Matt McNeil Show is up next. Stay tuned after that to the Native Roots Radio. Until 2 p.m. tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.